City Planning Commission meeting for May 9th, 2024. If any member of the audience wishes to speak to an item on the Planning Commission agenda, there are speaker request forms on the table along the left wall. Please fill out the request with the agenda number of the item you wish to speak to and hand it to the staff seated on the left of the dais. This time, we would also like to ask that if any member of the audience has a cell phone or other electronic device, that you either turn it off or turn the ringer to silent. If you need to take a call, please step out to the hallway so the meeting is not disrupted. Items 1 through 3 have been placed on the consent calendar today and may be approved as a group. Action will be taken on all consent items in accordance with staff's recommendation by a single vote. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar by any planning commissioner, staff member, or audience member for separate consideration at this time. The findings of this planning commission are recommendations to the city council. The city council will make the final decision with the exception of the following item. Item 3, 24 PD 010. The Rapid City Planning Commission's action on this item is final unless any party appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Department of Community Development by close of business on the 7th full calendar day following action by the Planning Commission. Are there any items 1 through 3 that staff would like removed from the consent calendar for separate consideration?
No, thank you.
Are there any items 1 through 3 that any planning commissioner would like removed for separate consideration?
I'm gonna have them look at 3.
Okay, item number 3. Any other items from the commission? 1 or 2? And would the any audience member like item 1 or item 2 pulled for separate consideration? The chair would then entertain a motion to approve items 1 and 2 in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Motion to approve items 1 and 2 in accordance with the staff's recommendations, stipulations.
Okay. Vince made the motion to approve 1 and 2. Eric Heikus seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Karen, I believe you pulled it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a question on the drawing. I'm trying to figure out what's the side left and right elevations on that drawing. There's a drawing of the houses, and then there's a drawing of the Place and Park Drive, sort of a situation where they showed the drives going in. And to me, front elevation should be the front at the street, but it's not really, it's on the side. So, but I got the front and the rear elevations, but I couldn't get the left and right to figure out how that worked. So if somebody could just put that drawing up there and just show me what that looked like. I'm not opposed to anything, I'm just curious how those elevations went. Yeah, that one, the left and right.
Yeah, Vicky.
Thank you. So this was unique in that we wanted to ensure that these were functioning as side-loading garages, so that when you back out of the garage, you have room to turn around and enter the right-of-way in a public or in a forward motion. We did that on other townhomes further north on Park Drive, and so what you're looking at, what will be visible from the street will be the side of the home. The front of the homes will be looking at each other with a shared driveway and access point in between them. And they could have done different elevations, but they do have more topographic issues here than what Dean Kelly had years ago further north when we worked diligently with him, and he set a pattern that many others have mirrored throughout the community when we have these streets that have high volume traffic. And with the school in the area, we're concerned about people backing into the street with children walking to the schools. So they worked well with us, and they've come up with this design to hit the elevations. You can see the steps going into the front door, but they will be turned sideways so that they get that side-loading garage.
Okay, and I understand that, and I have no question about how they've designed it. I'm just trying to decide which is left and which is right is the one that's going to face Park Drive, is that the right or is that the left, and the other one would be on the other side?
I
It
think
looked
that-
like the garages are strange to me, so, from those two elevations.
Trying to figure that out in my head, if it'll be alternating because they're sitting opposite each other.
Yeah,
Probably, but you'll see one of those two sides.
Looks like the garage is always closest to the street.
Yes, garage is always closest to
That's as good as I
the
can
right is
tell.
the garage.
the garage is closest, so this would be the street, and this would be the back? I mean, this would be the front Park Drive, and this would be the, behind it?
I guess I
Oh.
couldn't tell you which, if the
Cassie is
garage
saying
only
that
has
she
one window
believes
or
the
two.
right is what you'll be seeing from the street because of the deck location.
Okay, and then the other one would be the, okay, it's fine, I couldn't wrap my head around that, so, okay, that's all. Thank you.
Boy, you challenged us today.
Challenge myself.
Eric Hikas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's the very question I had too. To me, it looked like the left elevation was the street-facing elevation from trying to read the plans. That's it.
All right, any other questions or comments on item 3? Oh. You got to go up to the microphone if you'd like to speak. Once you're up, identify yourself, please.
Good morning. I'm Laura Hawkins. I live on Park Drive. This may have been addressed already. How many total home units are planned for that particular development? I couldn't tell from what was sent to us.
Looks like we have 18 lots, but maybe we can get clarity from community development.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Cassie Hayes. There are 18 residential lots proposed. There'll be 9 accesses to, since they're using shared accesses, there won't be 18 accesses to Park Drive, but there will be 18 residential lots.
And those lots is half of the twin home, or however you want to say it.
Mhm.
It's not 18 times 2 for dwelling units, so 18.
Yep, 18 dwelling units.
Okay,
Mhm.
Great. Thank you very much.
you bet. Anything else on item 3?
I'll move approval of item 3 with stipulations.
Okay. Karen made the motion to approve item 3 with the stipulations.
I'll second.
Vince seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.
Sorry about that. Oh. Don't know how that happened. Good morning, Chair and Commission. Jessica Olson with Community Development. Today we'll be hearing 24 PD 11 for Western Dakota Technical College master plan, campus master plan. So the entire PD would cover the full site, which is outlined in yellow here. There's 3 parcels associated with it, partially the main campus, and then there's the Badlands Hall to the north of the property. It's currently zoned public. There is a rezone in progress to rezone a portion of the property to medium density residential. Again, I apologize, I'm very congested today. And then there's also a rezone, if you see the southerly kind of tip of the property, it was originally zoned LDR1. It's also being proposed to be rezoned to public, so that the majority of that parcel would be zoned public for the campus, and then the portion that's going to be rezoned to medium density residential would be for student housing. The future land use is public, quasi-public for the majority of the parcel, consistent with the use. It's also on a principal arterial, Highway 44. There is one access point to the kind of backside of the campus off of Highway 44, but most of the access points are off Mickelson Drive, which is a minor arterial. So this is kind of a rendering of the existing campus plus some of the proposed or conceptual ideas of what could develop in the campus over time. So the student housing portion is what we're talking about with the initial PD today. And then there's potential for future PDs to come forward with other development over time. And even within this initial PD, it's assumed that it would be a phased development of the student housing. So as of today, the campus exists. These parking areas along here exist, along with Badlands Hall. The proposed kind of range of this initial PD is here. And then this is just conceptual future development that's not discussed in the initial PD so far. This parcel is also being proposed for a subdivision. So they received preliminary subdivision approval to subdivide into ultimately 4 lots, 3 of them associated with the student housing project. Each of the buildings are not completely set on what the layouts are going to be, whether it's a dormitory style, which is pictured here, or if it may be more apartment style where they have several units with a communal area and then bedrooms that would be rented out. And so the staff report addresses that kind of if it were either one when they come in for the final PD, they know that what requirements would be needed. They are, actually, I'll go back to the lot size. The lot sizes for either the dormitory or the multifamily types are smaller than the minimum lot size for that use in the medium density residential zone. It's not zoned that today, but when it is, it wouldn't meet the minimum lot sizes. So they are requesting an exception with the, knowing that this is on a school campus. It's going to be developed as a school campus. There is a neighborhood to the east of there. But there's enough room on the parcels to meet all of the area requirements. We're assuming there's enough to meet the landscaping and open space as well. Parking really is probably the only issue that we'll have to work out in the final PD, and we can accomplish that through shared parking since it is a campus-style development. And so for the exception for the lot size requirement, staff is recommending that we allow the lot size that were approved in the preliminary subdivision plan. For the height of the building, they're currently under the public district, it would be allowed at 4 stories and 45 feet. They're proposing 4 stories. The roof line is 42 feet. The tallest height of the building would be 48 in the proposal. And so considering that since it is on the campus, it was already zoned public, they're rezoning to medium density residential in order to get more of the student housing use. It fits with the area and the plan development in the future. And so staff recommends approval granting the height exception for at least 4 stories up to 48 feet. These are some renderings that they did showing how that height would play out on the campus itself. And so this is kind of looking from Mickelson Drive at one of the access points, the campus on to the south there, the whatever it may be, dormitory apartments to the east. This is looking from the neighborhood on Homestead Drive, looking from the east to west. This is kind of from the corner of, it's at Highway 44 and Rockville Road, I believe. I've got some actual pictures of this too, where you can kind of see through the campus. This is looking into once you get off the access road on the campus into the proposed facility. While we're here, I'll touch on parking as well. They had requested an exception to the parking requirements, and it's kind of complicated, so I'll walk through it. So there's an initial request to use a per bed rate. And so their assumption for the per bed rate was most dormitory style are 2 double occupancies. In the plans, that wasn't quite the case, and so staff didn't feel comfortable using the per bed rate that was proposed for, it would be 0.5 per bed, assuming there's 2 beds in each occupancy room. Further, because the rate for dormitory style is 1 per sleeping room. And so that kind of gets you, if there's unrelated persons living in the same building, likely they're going to have each of their own cars. And so whether it's a single occupancy or a double, we don't really feel comfortable reducing the parking rate too much. The other side of it would be from that 0.5 request, a further reduction because there is a parking requirement on the campus. The parking requirement for the school is essentially 1 per student capacity. And so the 0.5 per student capacity. So I believe it was in the 1300s. It would total out about 662 spaces, which is what they are providing today. I also forgot to mention, looking at the area regulations for the campus on the public district, it meets all of those requirements as well as the parking. And so they're good as a baseline point. But adding the housing in addition to that, we really, especially if it's apartment style, we've had issues with that. And so staff doesn't feel comfortable approving the recommendation or the request for the exception itself, but we want to work with Western Dakota Tech to find a parking rate that works for them and a shared parking option so that we know that there's enough parking with each phase of the development. And so staff is recommending denial of the parking exception, and it'll likely have some information at the final PD associated with what the rate would be. So just to get an idea of where we're at and what it looks like, and I will note I've been there a couple times to take pictures for these projects, and the parking areas close to the campus is very full and the areas away from it are not. As the campus develops, so you want to make sure that there is that reserved parking for those areas. So that was looking from kind of the Mickelson Drive direction, looking east at the entrance. This is looking south. Highway 44 is on the other side of the building there. It's one of the main parking areas. And again, another main parking area outside the entrance. This is kind of stepping back down Mickelson Drive. So there are quite a few empty parking lots here as well. This is looking toward that access road that the housing would be off of. And one of the reasons we asked for those renderings is you can notice the topography goes up in that area. So we wanted to make sure that the height exception would be okay. Which we do think so. And this would be improved in order to access the housing. This is looking back from where the housing would be toward Mickelson Drive. Badlands Hall is to the north there. And this is just kind of the surrounding area of where the housing would be. It's not super developed. The areas that Shepherd Hills are developing as more multifamily as well, so it fits within that area. And then these are just some for context, looking out on Highway 44 at the surrounding uses of the front of the property. So in conclusion, staff recommends approval with stipulations listed in the report. I'll just note the exception to the proposed parking reduction. We're recommending denial, and then granting the exceptions for the height and the lot size. The open space requirements, landscaping and parking, as well as if there's any signs or anything, will be addressed in the final PD. I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Vicky? Did I get you? No.
Thank you. I think it's interesting to note that the state has a limitation on the number and type of colleges that can provide student housing.
Yep.
You know, if you go to my alma mater, the University of South Dakota, dorms are right on campus, there's shared parking, we don't have to worry about lot size, all of those types of things. We've been working for years with Western Dakota Tech. I think, Eric, you're familiar with some of this. And there's been a big push to get housing on the property. But to do so, it has to be on a separate lot and under different ownership. And so they're achieving that. They have also noted that while they will have first-come Western Dakota Tech students, it is also open for others in the community. So hopefully it'll be other students from maybe the University Center or School of Mines that's looking for housing, but if not, they will fill those rooms with apartment type individuals if need be. That kind of sets the dilemma about the parking itself. I think Jessica did a good job capturing some of the pictures of the parking that is already in demand at the campus itself. What we intend to do is to work with them going into the final plan development, because as she noted, this is just the initial, to see where that compromise can be. We don't want it to overpark it. There will be students that are otherwise parked next to the classrooms that now will leave their car and walk to their classes. But at the end of the day, we approach this similarly as if it were student housing on a campus. And so there was great leniency in the height, because if it was left public, that wouldn't be needed. In the lot size, because if it could all be on one lot, that exception wouldn't be needed. And at the end of the day, I think that we're going to achieve some much needed housing in a time in our society where these type of colleges are in demand. And we see such an increase in enrollment for those that can go to get that 2, 3, or 4-year degree and get job placement immediately. And so as a community, we're working together to ensure that they're meeting this need. When they do bring in the final, hopefully we can bring forward a compromise that we can all support. We'll stand for questions.
All right, Mike Quasney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things. I like that we addressed the no parking or the parking situation. I think you have that handled. And Jessica, you did a nice job of showing that the parking lot is already full at the school. So that was one of the questions that I did have. Hopefully we can work out something, because I think this is a great concept. I think it will definitely enhance the environment there at the school. So I hope it works out and we can figure out how to do it. I did have some concerns as far as the lot sizes. I'm assuming, I'm making some assumptions, and we got to be careful when we do that, that there is no way for the surrounding lots to be really used. So that would not create a problem with how that area looks by reducing lot sizes. And I guess that would be a question that I would have is the area around those buildings not usable, so there won't be a problem with reducing lot size?
Vicki?
So the lot size requirement is there so to ensure that we've got open space, so that the residents of an apartment, or in this case an apartment/dormitory, can get outside, stretch their legs, and those types of things. When you're looking at that aerial that's up right now, you will see that there are limitations in future development between this phase of the project and the school structures that are southwest of this, that will always preserve that as open space. Additionally, to the east, there are some topographic constraints. So similar to many other college campuses where they don't have to set it aside as a separate lot, we look at the overall acreage of the campus itself. Granted, it will be under different ownership, but we did not have concern that if they sold this to someone down the road and it was being operated separate from Western Dakota Tech, that there wouldn't be a preservation of open space so that the occupants of this structure could get outside and enjoy that area.
Okay, well, that was part of the concern that I had. And also the visual, because it looks like it's a great concept, and the visual is outstanding. I'm generally not a fan of over height to protect the view of our hills and such, since we have that beauty of the hills. But I think this is down in a valley, and I don't think it kind of in a valley. It's got hills around it, and I don't think it'll show up as such. So I think it's great. If we can figure out the parking, I'm all for it.
Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick comment and one question. I think it's great to see Western Dakota growing, and any technical college augmentation, I guess you could call it, is a great thing for Rapid, so it's good to see. My question is, today are we considering and voting on the height exception and the parking that's all rolled into one, or will that be parceled out and voted on separately?
Mr. Chair?
Vicky?
Those are stipulations noted in the report, so if you approve this with STIPs as noted by staff, you'll be denying the parking requirement with a STIP saying, let's work together going into the final to find a better compromise. You would be approving the height exception, and you would be approving the lot size. They need that so that they can actually final their design and bring forward the final plan development.
Okay, thanks.
Eric Heikus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a lot on this one. Number one, I agree with Vicki and Kelly about the value that this housing will bring to our community, and, you know, as the proud father of a welder and a nurse who are trying to make a good life for themselves, this is a step up for that program. It's interesting what Vicki said about this will have to be done by a third party. Is that correct? On a different parcel of land. So it's great that they figured that out. So I have a little different position on the parking. I've worked on this before. I would offer up a minority report on this one, in that maybe there's a trade-off for parking in allowing them to do more alternative methods of transportation, stronger modal connection, carpool spaces, alternative transportation, bike storage, that sort of thing, as a trade-off in the whole bigger parking game. So my third comment, let's see, I'm on 3. Third comment is there needs to be a really strong pedestrian connection between the housing and the main campus. So we don't want people to drive to their parking spot at their housing and then drive over to if we can make them park once, I think that's a win. Lastly, a question, and then maybe possibly followed by a comment. The question is, Mickelson, does that connect to the north now? Is there an out? Okay, so
Yes.
Is this traffic impact study worthy because of that? Okay, nope. Then that's what I got. Thanks. All right.
All right. One comment on the parking side. As it goes to a final development, I really don't like to see empty parking lots. That is just kind of a issue for me. Maybe tie this to enrollment. Maybe tie it to, assigned parking for students. You get one spot, whether it's for classes or for residential, but some way to just ensure that we're not requiring them to provide a spot for the student when they're at class and a spot for the student when they're at their apartment, because that would be awful for the amount of pavement.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Vicki?
So we've had some internal discussions. You would think that Eric Heikus maybe was sitting at our team meeting. We have also noted that we do want that pedestrian access between the classroom activity and the residential unit for that very purpose. So you park once, you walk the rest of the day unless you need to leave campus. This one's unique. Typically, a dorm would only hold students going to that campus. They would have rigid rules in place. That's not the case here. And they've been very honest, noting that if need be, they will open it up to the general public. And so we will have people using these as just a standard apartment. But we'll work with them. We'll see where their numbers lie. We will look at the number of students that need housing that will be attending this campus. And our efforts are there, our intent is to find a solution.
Thanks. Haven?
My question was, what entity is proposed to be the owner of this project?
It's the Western Dakota Tech Foundation.
Okay, the foundation. And then I think maybe Vicki answered a second question I had. This property could be sold to a private entity in the future, I assume. Is that correct?
Vicki?
Once the property is platted, Those are then transferable by description.
All right, other questions or comments on item 4?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Mike Kwasny, sorry, but
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What was said there about the parking, that's why I don't disagree with what's been said, the community, bicycling, etc. But as was stated there, I think it's important that we stay on the fact that that could be resold, could be owned by another entity, or maybe none of the people in that apartment building are students. That possibility exists. So that's why the parking, I think, has to remain as a topic, and it sounds like the city has that under control. So I just want to reiterate that a little bit.
Vince? Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, I agree that the parking still has to be studied, and I know the staff is on top of it. So I make a motion to approve in accordance with the staff stipulations noted.
All right. Mike, was that you on the second? All right. Vince made the motion to approve per the listed stipulations, and Mike Kwasny seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5.
Good morning. My name is Mike Dugan. I am the tax increment finance planner. This morning we're going to be talking about a proposed new tax increment district called Canham Heights Affordable Housing and Infrastructure. This slide is, the yellow is the city limits of Rapid City. Here we go. Right there, the orange is the proposed boundaries of the tax increment district. This TID is being formed to support affordable housing and infrastructure. Canham Heights Affordable Housing Infrastructure applicant is ECG Rapid City GP LLC. The proposed district is a total of 48.77 acres. Here's a close-up view of the proposed district. Some of this is developed property, but for the most part, this district is undeveloped. The construction of this district will be right in through this area. This top piece right here will be unique for low-income affordable housing, as this will be a 1 megawatt solar field that'll help reduce utility cost for the project. Right in through here will be the actual development of the units. There are 252 planned units, with 51 of those units being dedicated to senior housing. This actually piece of property that's going to be the subject piece that's going to be developed has sat undeveloped for quite some time. The zoning of this for this proposed TID is, the red is general commercial, the pink areas is office commercial, the light gray is light industrial, and the very top piece of this proposed TID up here is general agricultural. Future land use categories, the majority will be mixed use commercial, and then to the side of the slide will be light industrial. This is the the proposed outlay of the subject property to be built on. Once again, this top part up here, this lot 12, will be dedicated to the solar facility. And then there will be 6 total structures on this property. And once again, there'll be 252 units, 51 dedicated to senior living. These will be at 60% of AMI, which the standard is to be classified as affordable housing as 80% AMI. So these are well below the affordable or within the affordable housing limits. The area size to be built on is 27.53 acres. And once again, that 1 megawatt watt solar facility is unique to affordable housing, and that will help further drive down the monthly costs of these units. These are the improved improvements to the TID. Before you is an updated packet for this application. These are recent updates. These show right here the improvements, the updated improvements that will happen to Utica. And then down at the bottom of the slide, proposed improvements to Pond 200. As you can see, the green circles starting on East Anamosa, following up Utica is the sewer manholes. The green line, once again, following through East Anamosa up through Utica is the 8-inch PVC sewer. The red fire hydrants are the fire hydrants proposed up Utica. The orange and black line up Utica is proposed public 8-inch PVC water main. And then to the side towards East North Street is the proposed sidewalk that will be put in. This is the unit mix of the proposed development. 252 proposed units ranging from 1 bed, 1 bath to 4 bed, 2 baths. Square footage ranging from 734 square feet all the way up to 1,542 square feet. You'll see there are 51 units listed on there for senior living. And the monthly average price per unit, and this includes utilities, is $1,255 per month. The proposed project costs for the TID are estimated at $12,412,155. Of that, the Utica public improvements, the discretionary costs and grants is $6,268,118, and this is including land acquisition, grading, sidewalk, professional, legal, administration costs. Then the financing portion of this at the $5,132,155. During the TID process, there's ongoing discussions with staff and applicant regarding costs and how they fit into the state and city qualifications. This particular slide was changed from the TIF committee. It was changed to make it more clear, to fully show what the public improvements are and then what the discretionary costs and grants are of this project. This is a slide. This is looking north of this proposed TID towards Rushmore Crossing. This is looking towards the Utica Street. This once again is another slide looking towards Rushmore Crossing. This is looking east towards East North Street. And this is looking south towards East Anamosa. The projection is the anticipated base value of the 48.77 acres that would be within this TID is $9,540,102. The projected payoff period is 19 years. It is important to note in these upcoming slides that the applicant only used the subject site of the 28.77 acres of, to use as their assessment as far as calculating repayment. That subject is $2,065,602 is the subject. So there is some income that could be or will be going towards for actually a quicker payoff of this district. This slide shows the subject area to be constructed on. So they are showing a very conservative approach as far as repayment. There is quite a bit of land for future development. If these properties were to be developed on, those funds would be go towards the quicker repayment of this district. This is the proposed timeline of the district. 2024 was set the base valuation. 25, all land will be purchased, and 26, land is purchased and 20% of the improvement costs are completed. 27, 50%. 2028, substantial construction will be completed. 2029 will be 100% leased and stabilized in the first year of operations. And then 2031 will be the second full year. This is the increment projection for the district. Once again, this is very conservative because this only includes the subject area. So there is additional income that will be generated through this TID that will go towards repayment. But this does show that this will repay in 19 years. This projection anticipates a 4% increase in value every 2 years. This will be repayment. The TID loan will be $7.3 million with total interest of the $5,132,155. This does show this will pay off in 19 years. The city is proposing financing as a partnership with this development. So the interest accumulated will be collected by the city in this scenario is this proposal. And that interest would go towards any projects the city needs as far as maintenance to roads throughout the city, any improvements in public works that might be needed. The total sources and uses of this project. The project is estimated the total cost of just under $80 million. The sources of this: permanent debt financing, LIHTC equity, solar equity. They have a housing infrastructure grant. And then it's highlighted there, the tax increment financing loan, the deferred development fee, and other local gap funds is the sources to pay for this project. This slide shows without the TIF funds, if this application was not to go forward, this pulls out those TIF funds and it does show a gap. Without these funds, this project would not move forward. So the tax increment financing loan is shown 0 in this slide, and it does show that need and that gap for this. These are policy and affordable housing criteria. Noted here the 80% or below the area median income. These are priced at 60%. And the affordable housing is to remain affordable for 10 years. Through the grants that the funds they're receiving, I believe these must stay affordable for 40 years. The South Dakota Codified Law required findings. This particular project meets these two criteria here, as the improvements will significantly enhance the value of the real property in the district with these 252 planned units. This is South Dakota codified law definition of blight. Rapid City TIF policy. The first item there to stimulate economic development in the community by assisting projects to stimulate the construction of safe and affordable housing units for low income. This does meet that at the 60% AMI. And this to facilitate the reconstruction and maintenance and completion of the city's existing infrastructure network. Project costs that are allowable in the Rapid City TIF policy, the extension of the off-site sewer, water, street, and public, the construction of existing streets and infrastructure, and the professional service fees are allowable within the project costs. And these are Rapid City TIF policy project costs. They're allowable if approved by City Council, and that would be the private development and the real property assembly costs. So that would be partially used for the purchase of Lot 12 for use of the solar facility and the grading that will be done for the project. Other criteria listed for the Rapid City TIF policy. This does fall in line with affordable housing and benefit to low and moderate income people as defined by HUD. And this does align with the comprehensive plan for land use and neighborhood goals for this area. Recommendation, the Planning Commission finds the proposed district project plan meets the intent of the South Dakota codified law and the city's tax increment financing policy. The staff recommends, the commission recommend approval of the two resolutions to the city council with the stipulations noted in the staff report. With that, I'll stand for question, and representatives for the proposed district are here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Questions from the commission? Haven?
I have a couple of questions. I noted, and I lost my map here, the map of the area, would provide for light industrial right next to the housing lot. Now, I notice on the map that is separated by a road. So just to refresh my recollection, what light industrial could probably a lot of uses that might not be entirely compatible with housing, I would assume.
Vicki, hang on just a second. Vicki?
So we had this conversation several months ago when we brought forward the rezone application to change the zoning to office commercial, noting that these developers did have an affordable housing project in sight. Light industrial is separated by right-of-way, and in this area and other areas throughout our city, our light industrial uses are more cleaner industrial. They do allow more outdoor storage. There could be some truck traffic, but we do believe that the roads are built to accommodate that. So even though it was a decision Planning Commission and City Council had to come to, I think the consensus was that we did want to see people living closer to where they could potentially work. We're short housing throughout the community, and in particular, there's a node right here where we have a lot of employment opportunity, and it would bring additional housing that potentially could limit that travel time. So could there be impacts of future development, whether it be from the adjacent general commercial or the light industrial to the west? Yes. But the win is that we are getting affordable housing, and it's in an area that has many employment opportunities.
Oh, thank you. The other question, there's a part of this area that's proposed for a solar project. Is that included in the tax base for the repayment of the TIF? And if so, how would that be valued?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Sarah?
Thank you for the question. The applicants may add on to what I start with here, but the applicants have worked closely with the Department of Equalization to get a sense of how the future value of that property developed with solar panels would be a dynamic of the income for the tax increment district. So they have worked closely with Equalization to project out what those values will be, and those are reflected in the assumptions that you've seen in the charts and materials before you.
All right, Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sticking with the solar panels for a moment, the electricity that would come from such use of the solar panels, is that going to be a benefit to the homeowners, or how does that work?
Yes, it would offset the cost of power. So the power generated from those solar, the panels will go directly towards these units.
So if there's multiple units, how is it done? Are they all going to benefit from it, or is it just who uses the electricity the most?
Mr. Chair, if we could defer
Yeah.
to the applicants on how they propose to administer that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a rep that would come up? Once
Yep.
you're up, just
This
identify.
is Chris Spelke, representative.
Yes, thanks. Chris Spelke, Elmington. The solar panels, yes, are an accessory use and would be a benefit for the residents in offsetting essentially 100% of the total electricity costs for common area and in-unit resident on one master meter. And working with our team and our consultants, they've been working with Black Hills Energy. So we've been approved for a master meter. And so that, again, ensures that this is really to offset and benefit the low-income residents in the apartment use.
So one of the things, too, if I can refer back to one of the slides where it was talking about the cost of each one of those units, is that something that gets locked in, or because I heard a 40-year or 20-year repayment plan? So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the rental prices that are shown would be based on current incomes. So that's what it looks like in 2024. For the next 40 years, every year the Housing and Urban Development will redetermine what area median income is, and so those numbers will change over time. But it'll always be fixed to what 60% of what the median income is.
And do you know what our area encompasses?
What our area median income is?
Where's the area, right? Or at least so when they determine the area, obviously it's not the entire nation. So is it based on a geographical area?
Oh, yes, thank you. It's based on the Rapid City area.
Just the Rapid City?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Kwasny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vince, those are a lot of the questions that I had. Can you show that chart again of what, didn't you have a picture of what the cost was going to be estimated for individuals? Wasn't there a price?
Yes, this slide shows what these are going to be priced at and the average monthly for all the.
And that includes
uses.
all the utilities and?
Yes,
okay.
this includes everything.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a lot of questions at the TIF committee, so I don't have any detailed questions like I did there. But I do have one question. In the project plan, and I think I visited with you, Mike, before, and Sarah, about the items that are listed under the discretionary costs and grants, and the couple items that were missing, you will have those in the project plan when it goes forward?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that was my major question.
Mr. Chair, if I might add on to that.
Sarah?
Just to clarify the question, so the discussion, so the project plan is formatted in a way to try to make it clear what's a public improvement, truly a public improvement associated with this project, that being Utica Street.
And then acknowledging that there are other costs that are fitting into what state law calls discretionary costs and grants. So those are some of the more private improvements or quasi-public improvements, such as the sidewalk. And Rapid City developers are responsible for constructing sidewalks, even though there is a public benefit to that as well. So we tried to structure the project plan to make it clear to the public that line between what's a public improvement and what's supporting the affordable housing. And so Ms. Bowman had a couple questions about where contingency was being accounted for in the project plan. The capital cost for Utica Street, that 1 million plus, does include contingency. So that was one clarification that we will make for the project plan as it goes forward to City Council. There was another question about some of the financing costs, and we will add that in as well, just to make sure that's clear.
Okay, thank you. That was my major question, I guess. I just want to say that this is a complicated TIF, and it's had a lot of pieces and a lot of things that go together to make this come forward. I think the housing itself and the fact that they're going to extend the life of this thing from 10 years that's required under our policy up to 40 years, that's amazing right there. I mean, I'm not going to be around to see it, but obviously some of you will, hopefully. And it's an infill, thing from the city. It's not something that's going to go outside the city limits like we've had before, or not outside, but the fringes. And so there's some really good positive things with this, the solar panels. I mean, there's a lot of things that have gone into this that makes it feasible. I'm familiar with more TIFs that are more stringent with the costs and laying it all out, and a lot of this is in summary form, which is hard to grasp for me, but I believe that it'll work out all right. The main thing that I want to say is the money for the 7.3 million is actually city funds that are going to pay for this, all the things that are doing that. We're the ones that are benefiting from the interest rates, but it is our money that's going to do that, and I think that needs to be clarified so people don't think that somebody else is going to come forward with that money. But other than that, I think that's the main thing I wanted to say. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Sarah.
So yeah, I just want to add on to that, if I might. The partnership here proposed is that the city will provide the financing. The staff group and the applicants are working together on a developer's agreement that will outline the terms and conditions for that to move forward. And so that will be brought forward as part of the review by City Council. But that is the intent, is that the city and the applicant work together so that it's a city-financed tax increment district.
Mr. Chair.
Vicki?
If I might, I just want to make it very clear in case there's council members listening to this. It is a council decision as to whether or not the city is going to finance that TIF. They have not been posed with that question yet. And so that will be coming forward as this project advances to their level of attention as well.
I'm just going to follow on that line. When we have a private developer come in with a bank financed TIF proposed, the developer guarantees that loan. The city does not. Who guarantees the loan if the city is the bank?
Thank you. And that's the specific details that we're working on to ensure that there is a guarantee for the loan that meets the needs of all parties, that everyone is comfortable with, so that it is guaranteed and there's security for the project costs.
Okay. Don't see any other commissioners up, so I've got kind of a I don't know if I'd call it a laundry list, but we're getting close. One thing first, just a question: is this classified or proposed to be classified as an economic development TIF or a standard TIF that is infrastructure and other allowable costs that will be certified?
Yeah, this is anticipated to be affordable housing.
Affordable housing. So the costs listed will go through the certification program versus just being approved as a overall sum, or is it not?
So what you're talking about are two separate topics. The first topic being how the district is classified. The Department of Revenue, South Dakota Department of Revenue, is responsible for making that determination. We do anticipate it will be affordable housing. If not affordable housing, it would be economic development because of the commercial property. Either way, the implication of that is that the tax revenues to the school district are made up across the state as opposed to within our jurisdiction. So this is the exact type of TIF district that we want to encourage, as opposed to a local district where those tax revenues are made up locally across the school district. The second part of your question, though, I think is looking at the process for evaluating the project costs and their eligibility. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so in the case of a traditional loan where the developer gets the loan and the TIF pays the loan back, we, through the certification process, evaluate all of those invoices and look at that at the backside of the project after the work is completed. In a situation where the city is going to be providing the financing, if that goes forward in that direction, we would look at it on the front side before the draw goes out to make sure that the costs are eligible.
Gotcha. Okay. It just seems like in the past with the TIFs that are infrastructure based, we see these line item cost estimates and all that, and I know there's a certification of that on the back end. This seemed like a combination of what type of TIFs. But that said, I'll just start off by saying I'm leaning very much towards voting for this one in particular, but going forward, I do have concerns with how some of these TIFs are being brought. This is the second one of these affordable housing apartments that we're granting a TIF to, and in the material attached, this project is expected to receive somewhere over $32 million through low-income housing tax credits. Most projects that we consider for TIFs do not receive that level of subsidy. I mean, that's an enormous subsidy. Obviously needed when you look at what rents they're going to see and how they will pay off, but their statement of need lists a $28 million loan that they intend on taking, which for the size of the project is small, I would say, compared to other real estate developers. Again, it's needed to have that subsidy, but at what point is there too much subsidy? You know, there's another $4 million between grants from local and the solar additional credits. I guess what I'm asking for going forward is more discussion of at what point are we providing too much subsidy or what's the right amount of subsidy? Because I look at I think it's the next sheet from what's up on the monitor. No, maybe just in what was attached. The last piece of what was attached in the material. Yeah. So when I look at the top part here, reserves and development fees, $8.3 million. That doesn't change whether or not there's a TIF. That development fee includes the profit for the developer. How much is appropriate profit for a developer? I don't have that answer. And then if you go into their expected costs for the like the annual costs expected, on this as presented, this isn't going to be a enormous annual moneymaker as presented, but there's assumptions made, utility costs, replacement fee. I mean, through South Dakota Housing, I know there's a per unit replacement or reserve fund required to be built up. That's shown plus a maintenance fee. At some point, the reserve is the maintenance. I mean, there's $100,000 a year proposed for reserve. That just doesn't get built up forever without being used. I hope the developers don't think that I'm picking on this project in particular. I guess I'm just trying to point out that we're being expected to make decisions on things that maybe aren't as clear as I would hope. I support the development of affordable housing, and that's why I'm going to likely vote yes on this to move it forward. But I also think there's a limit on how much, as a community, we need to support it. I think the federal government is providing a lot of support for this. Do we as a community want to provide more, or do we as a community want to push our support elsewhere? And TIFs are tough. I mean, there's a lot of people that will live at this complex that are going to go to our schools, that are going to drive on our roads, and to take 20 years of property taxes off is it's a responsibility that approving it is something I take seriously. And to that end, I also would say going forward, I think we need to think about whether the TIFs should be provided with the expectation that these go back on the property rolls. There have been a couple recent affordable housing developments that are using nonprofits to avoid paying property taxes from the start. I think we should ask for some sort of assurance that that won't happen after the TIF expires, that at some point these will come back on the property tax rolls. Anyway, laundry list over. I appreciate one thing I do appreciate wholeheartedly is this is the best application and the most detail I've seen yet on maybe any TIF, but especially this kind of TIF. So I really appreciate that. That is one of the reasons I'm able to have these questions. Pat Roseland.
Thank you. I heard about this project over a year and a half ago when I got on council. I got really excited about it because it is a blighted area where no one would really think that something like this could be proposed, I guess. And it's, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, it was just basically a rock pile, gravel pit, all this development going around it. So I really appreciate what's happening. I know I need to be educated on the TIF and how that's going to work, especially with city financing. But and I'm sure other council members would like that too. But I think it's a great project, and I'm really happy to see it go ahead after a year and a half. I didn't hear a whole lot about it over the last year, but obviously you're working on it really hard, and I'm glad to hear that. So I thank you for this, and I appreciate the project and all the information I got here. Thank you.
Vince?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to concur with everything that Eric said. So there are some concerns, and thank you for listening to them. If I can, Sarah, if I can get you to just clarify when you mentioned about the school funding and how that is going to be created or not created. Would you repeat that again, please?
Thank you. I'd be happy for the opportunity. It's a complicated subject, so thanks for bearing with me. For any tax increment district that's created across the state, the school district is always held harmless. And so the school district's revenues are made up. They have to be made up somehow. The question is, how are they made up? Are they made up across the entire state, or are they made up just within our local jurisdiction? If a district is classified as either affordable housing, economic development, or industrial, it's made up across the state, which is a good thing because that's less impact to each individual taxpayer. It's a very small impact generally, so when we do decide as a community to create a local district, it's not a very large impact, but it is an impact. And so for a local district, that would be, some of the recent examples would be the High Point North Tax Increment Financing District, the Country Road, some of those more recent ones, those were classified as local districts. So taxpayers within the Rapid City Area School District boundary are making up the loss in revenue to the school district. I'll try to make it succinct. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to commend the staff and the developers to putting this together. I know how much information you got and how hard this was to kind of sift through with all the different grants and things that went forward. It is a good source for TIF, I think, of a lot of the things that we've had, and especially for low-income housing. This is probably the best one I've seen. And I appreciate Eric's comments, because those were really good comments, and he always has good comments, I think, but good questions and stuff going forward. I think in the future, I'd like to see not less TIFs necessarily, but I think because of the things that the council is talking about, maybe through the Vision Fund or some other things, that some of that will lessen, and we won't see as many things that we have seen in the past, TIFs necessarily. I'm just thinking that's the way it's going to happen, but we'll see. You know, that's down the road. But I just appreciate the complexity, and for me as a detail person on TIFs, it was hard for me to kind of go through it all, but I think I've understood most part of it. Main thing is just that we know that this is the city that's going to fund a lot of the 7.3 million, obviously, and if it doesn't go forward, you know, we're responsible for that amount. But I don't see that this is not going to go forward. I think this is something that they've worked hard on for several years, and I think this is going to go forward. And it's exciting to see something different like this with the solar panels and things. I just think that's good. So that's all.
All right, any other questions, comments, discussion items on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Vince made the motion to approve the resolution to create a tax increment financing district and a resolution to adopt a project plan for item 5. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Karen seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that takes us to the end of the regular agenda day. Any discussion items?
Just one, Mr. Chair. Wanted to let all of you know that we are hosting a Coffee with Planners on May 16th at 9 a.m. in the community room, which is right next door. We're going to have 3 topic tables. One will be for Patrick Dame, our airport director. He will be sitting down with the public and going through his expansion plan that's underway out at the airport. We'll also be hosting a table to talk about the comprehensive plan update that we have just kicked off. It's an opportunity for us to take on some public comment. And then lastly, we'll have a table to get input from the public on an ordinance amendment that we're working on regarding oversized garages. We had mentioned to all of you that we have had an unbelievable number of these applications in the last 3 years. And so we're looking to see what tweaks we could make to address the growing needs of our community and minimize the number of public hearings needed for something that almost in all instances gets approved. So if you can join us, we would love to have you.
All right, thank you. Anything from the commission? Haven?
Just to clarify, that's Thursday, a week from today, is it? May 18th?
Yes.
May 16th.
16th. It's May 16th.
At 9 o'clock?
9 a.m. Bagels will be served.
And we also got, I assume everybody in the commission, an invitation to a road and street planning event.
Kip, maybe some info on that? I gotta get your mic.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We are having a public open house to discuss the report on the Major Street Plan Analysis and Alignment Study that's currently underway. We've got a number of plans and profiles for proposed road segments throughout the community, and we'll be holding that public open house. Tell you the date. Tuesday, May 28th, 4 to 6 p.m., and that will also be in the community room next door.
All right. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything else from the commission?
Move to adjourn.
Karen made the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Vince seconded that motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Hey Vince,